From his teenage years onward, rock and roll was the pulse that drove him. Whether he was cutting his teeth with Montrose or forging a powerful identity as a solo artist, he never missed a chance to thank the fans who lifted him to a level few musicians ever reach. Yet even with all those milestones, nothing would ever surpass the legacy he built with Van Halen. Stepping into that role, however, was never going to be easy. The Red Rocker had already established himself as a force in his own right. And while the thought of working with Eddie Van Halen was exciting, replacing David Lee Roth was never something he actively sought out. To him, that era of the band felt like rock and roll packaged as a wild circus, and Hagar's heart was in songwriting, building music with substance, not theatrics. Ironically, that's exactly what made him the perfect fit. The Van Halen brothers weren't fond of Roth's over-the-top antics either, and once Hagar joined, the band began to find a new depth. They weren't trying to compete with the swagger of Panama or Ain't Talkin' Bout Love. Instead, they were reaching for something bigger, crafting anthems like Dreams and Why Can't This Be Love, songs that became massive hits without repeating the past. Even as tensions rose near the end of the Balance era, the album For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge stood as the perfect showcase of the Van Hagar years, equal parts playful and powerful. Sure, the title might have been a cheeky dad joke, but with tracks like Pound Cake and Judgment Day, the band proved they were still burning with the same fire that made them legends. And then came Right Now. By Van Halen standards, few songs could rival its impact. The hook was undeniable, but what truly elevated it were its lyrics, an existential, seize-the-moment message, unlike anything they had written before, even if it was humorously contrasted by the more provocative Spanked just one track earlier. Right Now stood out as one of the most thoughtful, meaningful pieces in the entire Van Halen catalog. After Eddie's passing, Hagar often returned to that song with deep emotion. Performing it live, he admitted, "A Van Halen song never felt so hard to sing and play in my life. What I felt, especially with a song like Right Now that is so timeless, I thought, thank God for this. We'll never play it with Eddie again, but thank God for this." Through the years, Hagar has performed with many incredible musicians, including longtime collaborator Michael Anthony, but no one could ever replicate Eddie's magic. His iconic tapping technique wasn't just skill, it was joy. While other virtuosos made their solos look like work, Eddie played with the enthusiasm of someone discovering music for the first time, every single night. And knowing that Hagar and Eddie had begun reconnecting in the final years makes Right Now even more poignant, a reminder of how fleeting time can be. Nothing could bring Eddie back, but the song remains a celebration of everything they created together, long before the fallout of the late 90s. A timeless message, a powerful collaboration, and a legacy that still resonates. That is the enduring bond between Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen.